All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you all for showing up this morning. To officially welcome back Kelly Krauskopf as President of Basketball Business Operations for the Indiana Fever.
What if the one person destined to elevate the WNBA into the stratosphere is the very same person the league's establishment is secretly trying to destroy? It's a question that sounds like a paranoid fantasy, but a series of shocking on-court events, bitter off-court commentary, and a brutal, cold-blooded decision from the highest levels of power have millions of fans believing a quiet war is being waged against Caitlin Clark. Behind this unfolding saga is complex and darker than anyone could have imagined, revealing a league at war with its own success. When Caitlin Clark was drafted #1 overall by the Indiana Fever, it was heralded as a seismic event, a turning point for. She was a cultural force of nature, a rating supernova who had completely rewritten the record books and the viewership landscape in college. Her games were pulling in numbers that dwarfed Stanley Cup games. She was the golden goose, the chosen one, single-handedly forcing the league to finally abandon charters, a move veterans had been demanding for years. Arenas that once had seas of empty seats were selling out in minutes, with ticket prices on the secondary market skyrocketing to unprecedented levels. The Caitlin Clark effect was real, tangible, and immediate. The stage was perfectly set for a glorious coronation, a hero's welcome into the professional ranks that would lift the entire sport with her. But what she received instead was a brutal, relentless baptism by fire. The welcome mat was pulled out from under her, and in its place was a gauntlet. From her very first game, it became terrifyingly clear this wasn't going to be an easy transition. The physicality was on an entirely different plane of existence. Defenders were bigger, stronger, faster, and they weren't just denying her space. They were delivering a message with every bump, shove, and hard screen. But this was something more than just tough, professional defense, deeply personal. It was a targeted bruising campaign that seemed meticulously designed not just to contain her, but to punish her, to make her question her place in this league. And that unspoken message was about to be delivered in the most flagrant, undeniable way possible, sparking a firestorm of controversy that would rip and expose the dark, most resentful underbelly of the league. The hits she was taking on the court were just the opening salvos in a much more sinister story. The precise moment the entire sports world collectively realized something was deeply, fundamentally wrong came during a heated game against the Chicago Sky. It wasn't a hard screen while fighting for position or a tough box out under the rim. Vicious blindside shoulder check from Chennedy Carter, a move that had absolutely no place in the sport of basketball. Carter didn't just commit a foul on Clark, she assaulted her, a blatant, cowardly, cheap shot delivered far away from the ball that sent Clark crashing violently to the floor. The play instantly went viral, and the world erupted in a chorus of outrage. This wasn't a welcome to the league moment. This was a deliberate attempt to injure, a message sent with malicious intent. Carter's smug refusal to answer any questions about the incident afterward, combined with her teammate Angel Reese's visible, gleeful celebration on the sideline, only poured gasoline on the raging fire, symbol for everything wrong, exposing the deep-seated resentment and jealousy that many had suspected was boiling just beneath the league's surface. The WNBA's pathetic initial response, a simple common foul that was only upgraded to a flagrant one after an avalanche of public pressure, the thing they needed to know. The league was not going to protect its biggest star. Caitlin Clark was on her own. This war wasn't just against one player on one team. It was a league-wide phenomenon, a coordinated effort by veterans who felt she hadn't earned her stripes or paid her dues. But while the world was debating the foul and the league's cowardice, a far more chilling narrative began to emerge from a place no one wanted to believe. As the season progressed, a deeply disturbing pattern began to take shape, one that internet sleuths, former players, and professional basketball analysts couldn't possibly ignore. On countless possessions, Caitlin Clark, arguably the greatest shooter on the planet, would be wide open on the perimeter, hands up, calling for the ball, only to be completely and utterly ignored by her own teammates. The tape was undeniable. Passes would be forced into double-covered players in the paint while Clark stood alone, a guaranteed 3 points waiting to happen. The on-court chemistry of the Indiana Fever didn't just look off. It looked broken, fractured, and at times intentionally sabotaged. Frustrated body language, exasperated looks toward the bench, intense, quiet huddles became the visual signature of the team. The speculation exploded across social media, birthing a chilling and increasingly plausible conspiracy theory. Her own team was intentionally freezing her out, deliberately limiting her touches to keep her numbers down and humble her. Were they jealous of the unprecedented media attention, the massive multi-million-dollar Nike deal complete with a signature shoe, and the undeniable fact that the entire franchise's identity now revolved around a 22-year-old rookie? The cryptic post-game comments from veteran star Aaliyah Boston did nothing to quell these rampant rumors. When pressed by reporters about the visible lack of chemistry, her answers were often clipped, evasive, and drenched in corporate speak, hinting at a much deeper frustration she couldn't voice publicly. The narrative was rapidly shifting from a simple story of a rookie struggling to adapt to the horrifying possibility of an internal mutiny. Was this generational talent being systematically sabotaged not just by her opponents, but by the very players who were supposed to be her allies? This internal turmoil created the perfect storm, an environment of chaos and distrust, just as the league's powerful old guard was preparing to send an even clearer, more official. The animosity wasn't just confined to the hardwood, it was being amplified in the media by the league's most respected voices. Veteran players, both past and present, engaged in a subtle but persistent campaign to downplay her significance and normalize the brutal treatment she was enduring. The most famous example came from WNBA legend Diana Taurasi, who, even before Clark was drafted, coldly predicted that reality is coming for her, a comment that in hindsight feels less like an objective analysis and more like a chilling prophecy or even a threat. Other players and pundits justified the relentless physicality, callously dismissing it as standard operating procedure for any rookie, conveniently ignoring the glaring fact that no rookie in the history of professional sports has ever entered a league with this level of a target on their back. The conversation inevitably grew more complex and fraught, so touching on the incredibly sensitive dynamics of a white player becoming the celebrated face of a predominantly black league. Many rightly pointed out that the media's relentless savior narrative inadvertently and unfairly erased the incredible legacies of the black women who had toiled in relative obscurity for years to build the WNBA from the ground up. This created a perfect storm of professional jealousy, cultural tension, and righteous indignation. It became an ideological battle between the old guard, who felt their immense contributions were being callously overlooked, and the new phenomenon, who represented a seismic shift in the sport's cultural and financial landscape. To them, she wasn't the rising tide that lifts all boats. She was a tidal wave of hype threatening to wash away everything they had painstakingly built. This simmering, unspoken conflict was about to become an official, undeniable policy, culminating in a decision from the highest level of the sport that would leave millions of fans speechless, bewildered, and utterly betrayed. The final, brutal confirmation that there were powerful institutional forces actively working against Caitlin Clark came not from an opposing player or a jealous teammate, but from the very committee entrusted with representing the United States of America on the world stage. In a move that defied all logic, financial sense, and competitive reason, Caitlin Clark was left off the Team USA Olympic roster for the Paris Games. The decision was a shockwave that reverberated through the entire global sports community. It was incomprehensible. Here was the single most popular, most watched, a most talked about basketball player on the entire